Just chatting to Sophia. She can stay here, but it might not be that fun to stay here the whole time. Anyway, hello everyone. We are looking at the Summer Psalms, and I thought it's always helpful to be reminded of why we're doing something. So here's the little brief that they gave everybody about why we're doing the Psalms. Through the Psalms, we find songs for every season, whether it's joy, lament, rest, hope, trust. This summer, we're slowing down to sit in the Psalms, to let them shape our response to life and to God. Whether you're weary, rejoicing, searching, or simply needing refreshment, there's a psalm for you. So today's psalm is Psalm 51. This is a psalm from King David, a psalm where David talks to God about his sin, which we call confessing sin. He asks God to wash him clean of his sin and to create in him a clean heart. So let's read it together. If you've got your Bibles, open them. It's Psalm 51. I think the youth are the best at bringing their Bibles to things. I can always hear pages turning over here. Should we do a big cheer for the youth bringing their Bibles? Woohoo! Okay. But you can calm down too. Psalm 51. Have mercy on me, O God, because of your unfailing love. Because of your great compassion, blot out the stain of my sins. Wash me clean from my guilt. Purify me from my sin. For I recognize my rebellion. It haunts me day and night. Against you and you alone have I sinned. I have done what's evil in your sight. You'll be proved right in what you say, and your judgment against me is just. For I was born a sinner, yes, from the moment my mother conceived me, but you desire honesty from the womb, teaching me wisdom even there. Purify me from my sins, and I will be clean. Wash me, and I will be whiter than snow. Oh, give me back my joy again. You've broken me, now let me rejoice. Don't keep looking at my sins. Remove the stain of my guilt. Create in me a clean heart, O God. Renew a loyal spirit within me. Do not banish me from your presence, and don't take your Holy Spirit from me. Restore to me the joy of your salvation, and make me willing to obey you. Then I will teach your ways to rebels, and they will return to you. Forgive me for shedding blood, O God who saves. Then I will joyfully sing of your forgiveness. Unseal my lips, O Lord, that my mouth may praise you. You do not desire a sacrifice, or I would offer one. You do not want a burnt offering. The sacrifice you desire is a broken spirit. You will not reject a broken and repentant heart, O God. Look with favor on Zion and help her. Rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. Then you will be pleased with sacrifices offered in the right spirit, with burnt offerings and whole burnt offerings. Then bulls will again be sacrificed on your altar. So, there are many stories of kings in the Bible, including the 42 kings and the one queen of Israel and Judah. But one of them stands out, King David. We know so much more about him amongst us. He's remembered and talked about far more than the other kings, and he's the one who wrote Psalm 51. But what made him different? Was he perfect and without sin? Absolutely not. We're going to look at his story in a minute, and we'll see the things that he did wrong, just like all the other kings. What makes David different to most of the others is his humility before God and others. Even though he's the most powerful man in their nation, who God has chosen, when he's challenged about his sin, his response is to say sorry to God and not to hide behind power like other kings did. He humbles himself and remembers who his mighty God is. He owns the bad things he's done, and he asks for forgiveness. So I'm going to tell you the story of what happened. I think it's useful to know what David must have felt like and how bad it was when he wrote this psalm to God. So I would love 4 volunteers. You're not going to do much, but can I have 4 volunteers, please? Yeah, Molly, Amelia, come straight up. Anyone else? Camilla, great. Anyone else? 3's good for now. Anyone else? Cool. Come stand on the stage. Molly, I'm going to make you King David.
Well, to be honest, it was my birthday the other day. So
Yeah, it was your birthday.
it's on Friday.
You're chosen.
I'm the chosen one.
Well done.
I'm gonna
Wait, Molly, you need a crown. Oh, you're attached to me as well.
Oh no.
There you go. King David.
Well, no, it should be Queen David more like.
Amelia is Bathsheba.
Who's that diva?
Camilla is Uriah.
Whoa.
This is because she's a knight. She's fighting in the army, so she's wearing her armor. And Carmela is Nathan, a messenger. That's hence the hat. I think she looks like Peter Pan, but there you go. Cool. Oh, sorry, King David. David is king of Israel. David is the same David who fought Goliath, now all grown up, and a mighty king with God on his side. He's about to get himself into a dilemma. He sees a beautiful lady, Bathsheba. Can you all say, ooh?
Who's that diva?
And he sleeps with her. But she is not his wife. She is the wife of Uriah. Mighty Uriah, show us your strength. Uriah is not just Bathsheba's husband, but he is a noble warrior who is in David's army and away fighting for Israel. Yes! This is already pretty bad that David has slept with Bathsheba.
You don't need to tell me twice.
Bathsheba finds out she's pregnant. She's got a baby in her tummy. Uh-oh. Can I hear a big uh-oh? David tries to cover it up. He says, Uriah, come home from war.
Come home from war, mate.
And he tries to get Uriah to go home and spend a few nights at home for a bit of a rest, so that Uriah will think when the baby comes that this is Uriah's baby. But Uriah, come and sleep at outside David's castle. Uriah will not go home for a whole bunch of holy reasons. He says, my people are at war, and God's presence in the ark is in a tent at the minute. How can I go home to my wife when we haven't even got the ark in a proper place? So holy Uriah doesn't even know what the plan is. Can you feel the shame in David's heart growing? David ends up now, he's got to have a new way to cover this up. So he sends his army and sends Uriah to a dangerous place. Can you send Uriah back away? So that Uriah gets killed in the fight. Oh, along with some other men in the army. How many men have died to cover up David's sin? Once Uriah is dead, David makes Bathsheba his wife. And I think he's hoping at this point that it's all done and that no more can go wrong. But there is one that David cannot hide from, who saw all his sin, and that's God. God was very angry. God had chosen David to be the leader of his people, and David was supposed to be his friend. David was a man who loved God. He's known for worshipping him. But David lost his way somewhere along the line and hardened his heart to God, to the point where he thought he could carry on as God's chosen, righteous king, whilst hiding such severe unrighteousness in his heart. God sent David's friend Nathan to speak to him. Come, Nathan. Woohoo! Naughty David. Well, Nathan's going to tell you. You did. Nathan was a prophet of God and an advisor to God. God tells Nathan to tell David that what he has done is not hidden from God and that he's sinned. David was convicted of his sin, and like the other kings of Israel, he had a choice that would define his legacy in success or failure. He could hide his shame behind his power and lose God's presence with him, or he could humble himself before God, confess what he's done, and allow God to heal him. The first thing that David says in front of his friend Nathan is, I have sinned against the Lord.
I've sinned against the Lord.
Wow. Should we give them all a round of applause? And you can chuck your props in the box if you want. I think that's amazing. But this is not a question to put your hands up for, but I want you to think about who's felt ashamed before. I definitely have. Have you felt ashamed about something you've done wrong or about something about yourself? Maybe it's something you didn't do and should have done or could have done. Maybe you're not feeling ashamed about your actions, but maybe it's about who you are. Maybe it's about loneliness, your health, mental or physical. Maybe it's something else. I don't know what your shame is. We feel shame. But let me tell you that when the people I love speak to me about something that I feel shame about, usually my first response is to be defensive. David immediately says, I have sinned against the Lord. But my response would be to feel defensive. I already feel bad, and I can't bear to let myself feel worse about it. But when I know that, like God in this story, they are saying it because they love me and they want me to be the best and the happiest version of myself, I can let my guard down and acknowledge where I've been wrong. Because doing so doesn't lead to judgment or condemnation. It leads to life-giving freedom and redemption. David, a man of God, who, yes, still sinned, chose to go straight back to God about it. We hear his prayer in this psalm. He speaks to God honestly about what's happened and pours out his heart. He asks God for forgiveness, knowing that God can purify him and can remove his sin and guilt from him. This is how David is different than the other kings. He longs to be with God all the days of his life, and he will not let sin become a foothold for the devil. He comes close to God, and he asks him to wash away his sin. He knows God well, and he knows that God is a compassionate God of unfailing love, and that being honest with him leads to life and not condemnation. Something that sticks with me as I read the psalm and think about the story of David, Bathsheba, Uriah, and Nathan is about the challenge that Nathan presents to David. At a time when the king had a huge amount of power and dominance, God sent Nathan to speak directly to David to tell him that he'd sinned. And David listened. And I think that is a beautiful thing, to have relationships where you can be honest and accountable with each other about all of life, about all of the good and all of the bad. We all need a Nathan in our lives to tell us and to call us out when we've been doing wrong, who we feel safe enough to be honest with. I heard a helpful phrase not too long ago. In fact, I'll tell you who it's from. Maria Fagre, I don't know how you say her surname, who's come here quite a lot over the years. If you don't know her, she's Swedish from 24/7 prayer. But she's said, God knows that in this life we will never be a church without sin, but what if we could be a church without secrets? What if we could be a church without secrets? My husband Sam has spent years cultivating this discipline of confession in some of his closest friendships. There are a handful of people who know everything about him, and he knows everything about them. I can ask Sam what they think about something that's happened to us this week, because I'm sure they already know, and they've already prayed about it. And I trust their wisdom too. I've seen them invest in intentional time away together, building trust, celebrating highs, and comforting one another in the lows, being real about the embarrassing and the honest, and honest in the shameful. These kinds of relationships break the power of shame in our lives and the subsequent need to hide. When we know we can talk about our failures to brothers and sisters in the faith who will meet us with grace and kindness and the encouragement that we're not defined by our failures and we don't have to be in the future who we've been in the past. The reality of the world is that our failures cause us to hide because they lead to rejection, but there's a different message in Psalm 51, which is that our failures should point us to confession because it leads to redemption. I think there's an invitation in this story to find the Nathans in your life. Who's already beside you, running this race with you? Who do you feel you can talk to? Who are your brothers and sisters in faith? What if we could be a church without secrets? So I've got 2 activities for you to do. And there's some things to do around the room. But one of them, whether you're a child, whether you're in the youth, whether you're an adult, is a little worksheet, because who doesn't love something that helps them think about what they're doing? You can come get one down the front if you want. Or on your chair, I've called it an invitation on this, and not homework, because we're not at school, and you don't have to do it, and you don't have to feel guilty if you don't do it. But you've got an invitation this week to write an honest letter to God. Nobody else needs to see it. Maybe it's about something that's coming between you and God. It could be about anything, but that's your envelope, to keep it private between you and God. But this is your invitation this week to pour out your heart to God, your God who loves you. Let me read this. Yeah, that's fine. David says in verses 16 to 17, "You do not delight in sacrifice, or I would bring it. You do not take pleasure in burnt offerings. My sacrifice, O God, is a broken spirit. A broken and contrite heart, God, you will not despise." And I think that's what he wants from us, is to know that we can pour out our hearts to him. He loves to hear from us. So I'm going to lead back over to you, Lauren.